Imagine checking into a holiday home with your family only to discover that you actually, in fact, are being watched. That's what happened to my next guest at a house she booked on Airbnb. New Zealanders Nealie and Andrew Barker found that a camera was live streaming from their living room soon after arriving at a house in Cork Island. Look at the photo they took. The camera was hidden inside what appeared to be a smoke alarm. They say the experience, along with an ineffective as well as delayed response from Airbnb, highlighted the risks that come with booking into unregulated accommodation via the so-called sharing economy. Now, Airbnb has now apologized to the family. It says company policy strictly prohibits hidden cameras and that it takes reports of any violation extremely seriously. Nealie Barker joins me on the phone from Budapest, Hungary, where she and her family are staying in another Airbnb. I know you'll continue to holiday. Nealie, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to her on the show. For our audience right around the world, explain to us how you came across, or yourself or your husband came across this live streaming of this camera.
Yes, it's an interesting story. We checked in late in the evening to an Airbnb property with our children in tow. We settled into the property, everyone chose their bedrooms, we unpacked all of our kitchen belongings and bits and pieces, and then we settled down to get onto the house's Wi-Fi network. My husband, who is a security consultant by trade, just sort of has a force of habit, and that is that he often scans house Wi-Fi networks everywhere we go, just to have a look at what's happening on the network. Generally, you see your own devices, you see your children's mobile phones or laptops and your own. And in this case, he found a device called an IP camera, which certainly was not ours.
Clearly, the owner wasn't expecting anyone to discover it. What was your first reaction, your husband's first reaction, when you saw that appear in your Wi-Fi?
Oh, it was one of those sort of adrenaline rush moments. He looked at me across the table and I could see that he'd seen something shocking on his mobile phone screen, and I peered over to have a look and I saw essentially myself looking at his mobile phone at the kitchen table. So it was such a shock.
And for your children, we're looking at a photo there of the family. How did they take to it?
Different reactions. They're a fair mix of ages, but it's safe to say that a couple of them were actually really worried and afraid. This particular host had quite a sophisticated IT system, and he could also access the front door remotely and open it. And I guess worst case scenario sort of things went straight to their mind, and they were quite worried.
Do you know, Nealie, at all from the owner why he even installed this? What did he say? What did the owner say when you asked about this camera, this hidden camera?
Yeah, look, the truth is we have a tiny bit of sympathy for this problem and for Airbnb hosts generally. His response to us was that the camera was there to protect his asset. And I guess by that he means any potential damage that could come from having a property listed on Airbnb. He would want some sort of evidential proof of that.
Yeah, but that's why you have insurance, surely.
That's exactly right. And we are landlords ourselves. We understand the risk of renting your property. Damage is a risk of turning your property into a business. And it certainly doesn't negate his responsibility to firstly let people know that they're being surveilled and that they're being surveilled in the privacy of a residence that they've paid to rent.
What was Airbnb's reaction when you approached and you told them this?
Oh, I think this was the most disappointing thing. We really love Airbnb. We're avid Airbnb users, and so it was a bit of a shock to us to receive on the evening absolutely no advice at all from their customer service support. The lady we spoke to kept referring to the regular terms and conditions of cancellation. She sort of refused to accept, I guess, what we were telling her about the camera. So we took it upon ourselves to gather some evidence and to relocate ourselves to some emergency accommodation. Subsequently, it took Airbnb close to 3 weeks, actually just over 3 weeks, to complete what they considered to be a thorough investigation.
But you're still, I believe, using Airbnb. You're in Budapest, Hungary. That hasn't put this whole experience, that hasn't changed your mind about Airbnb. What do you still, does your husband still carry out these checks, or have you changed the way you look at Airbnb at all?
Yeah, we're in a slightly tricky situation. We're travelling through Europe for 12 months and we've committed to largely Airbnb accommodation for a good portion of that. And as I said before, we've, for the most part, had absolutely no problems with the platform. So we have continued to use it, and we accept that there are some risks that come, as you mentioned previously, in this sort of unregulated, accommodation market. So we scan carefully the networks at all the houses we arrive at, and I do a physical check of all the properties as well.
Nealie Barker, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us here on Quest Means Business. Enjoy the rest of your trip throughout Europe. I hope it all goes well for yourself as well as the family. Thank you.